Welcome back to Coach Adrian's Bike Shop. Today we'll be discussing randonneuring. Rando what? How do you do it? What is it? How long are the rides? What should you eat? And what kind of equipment do you really need? All this and more as I reflect on my own personal experiences as a teenage randonneur and offer some advice for the curious but maybe a little bit hesitant prospective randonneur. Stay tuned for more. A Super Randonneur Series is a 200, 300, 400, and 600 kilometer brevets ridden in a season. One must complete this sequence of events in order to qualify for an event like Paris Brest Paris or other 1200 kilometer events. That's a lot of riding. For those of you who are stuck using the old imperial units, 600 kilometers is somewhere around 375 miles. The maximum time distance for this is 40 hours. So you have 40 hours to ride that far. When I was 17, I chose to do this without sleeping, but sleeping a couple hours is common, and in the longer events, most folks will choose to sleep throughout. It's quite some distance. It's an amount that most cyclists, including accomplished racers, don't really think about ever riding. So why would you? And what might you learn and what might you need? Don't overthink the equipment for this stuff, especially when you're first starting out. You just want to learn that you like it, that you can cover the courses. Don't care about how fast, care about comfort and cargo capacity. Just carrying food and water and plenty of it, that's going to help you out. This is not the exact bike that I completed my Randonneur Series at age 17 in 2011 on, but it's more or less a comparable build-up of the same concept bike. Really cheap, really thick, really old Raleigh frame. I rode a similar frame back when I was 17. I pulled it out of a junk shed. And you know, the cool thing about that was that I was a high school kid and I wanted to run this series, and I had the skills I was developing to do that mechanical work. So it really was pretty cool to do the Super Randonneur Series on more or less a junkyard bicycle that I built myself out of scavenged used parts. And that was a great rite of passage for me to see that that thing could handle it. So here's a similar scrap bike, and I'm not saying this is the best tool for the job, but I'm saying that it's a viable tool for the job. Hopefully that sets the bar at a place where you feel like, okay, you know, equipment isn't going to be prohibitive here. You just need some room for food, some water, and some gears to deal with the terrain and wind you're going to hit. Comfortable hand positions, an appropriate saddle to bar fit relationship, and the bike will get you through. If you're going to spend money anywhere, the place to spend it is on the lights. I ran a dynamo hub setup, and that's an unbeatable system. No batteries, no charging, no concerns about that. You get a nice LED dynamo headlamp and a nice reliable hub to power it. You wire it up right and you weatherproof that wiring. You can just turn the switch at the beginning of the night, ride all night, and turn it off in the morning. That's how I got through 600K without sleep, and I would really recommend that setup. I mean, the weight penalty is negligible for an ultra distance. So even for folks who are not randonneuring per se, but need a reliable lighting solution, I think the dynamo is a little bit overlooked in today's ultra world as a extremely low maintenance, extremely simple, fast way to keep the lights on 24/7. I can do a full video speccing out this bike, but it's nothing special. These choices aren't made for any reason other than they're really cheap. There's a lot of companies that kind of want to help you make these same equipment choices for a much more higher cost. I'd recommend, if you're spending that kind of money, to get something modern, but this is a way you can just, all used parts, all old stuff, all scavenged stuff, make a bike that can handle this job for almost no money, and you can get out there and experiment. This is the exact handlebar bag that I used in my Super Randonneur Series, and it was from a bicycle thrift store, probably less than $10. Cool handlebar bag. I got into randonneuring before I got into racing, but it teaches you a lot of the same collaborative skills necessary to be a good teammate. This is my certificate that I completed the Flesh Velocio. And Velocio was a legendary cyclist whose legacy, if you aren't familiar with you should look into it. And he is the namesake of this wonderful event, which is a 24-hour team ride over a predetermined course in exactly 24 hours. You must start and finish the ride and ride throughout the course as a team, and you must finish in exactly 24 hours and no sooner. There's also a control that's a certain amount of kilometers away from the finish that you have to hit at 22 hours, so you can't just get there early and lie about it. It is phenomenal. As a 17-year-old kid, I rode around the entire greater San Francisco Bay Area, meaning the northernmost and southernmost terminus of the Bay, on a bike in 24 hours with a wonderful group of folks, none of whom were less than probably 20 years older than me. And it was incredible to do this circuit with these fully established professionals, and I was a high school punk kid on a weird junk bike. And I was riding over incredibly scenic California mountain passes at 2 in the morning in the dark, and it was cooler than any party I could have gone to. And it was an incredible memory to share with those folks that I'll never forget. And it taught you how to roll the brake. Because if you can ride 24 hours together, you can sure as heck take your pulls in the brake and make it stick. The same kind of collaboration is called for, and it's a really cool lesson about working on the team. So though it's not technically part of the Super Randonneur Series, if you're gonna get into this, I recommend you try the flesh. All well enough, but what about nutrition? What are you gonna eat on one of these things, right? It's so much time on the bike. Anyone who's familiar with the sort of energy cost of riding for that much time at any intensity knows we're talking about an almost insurmountable caloric requirement to ride more or less continuously in more or less zone 2 for upwards of 24 hours. You just need to be eating. And so it's interesting for me as a high school age kid with no structured athletics background prior to my participation in randonneuring, how did I solve that nutrition problem? So I'm not saying this in a prescriptive way, and I'm not saying this is my recommendation in 2020 as a cycling coach, but nonetheless, I think it's worthwhile and interesting to reflect on the kind of nutritional choices I made as a 17-year-old participating in randonneuring. What did I eat on the 600K? The short answer is everything. Stop at a Safeway, which is the chain grocery store in the region I did this. Just get like deli mac and cheese and potato wedges, and I was buying these 6-packs of this meal replacement shake that was some discount brand, and you know, those things are like 300 calories and 3 swallows. And I was just trying to send calories into my gut any possible way I could tolerate from a GI perspective. Similarly ignorant about training, I had kind of an unusual program for myself in the 17-year-old year I did this, which is that I just made sure to ride at least a century once a week, and then I sort of rode everywhere anyway besides that. So I was putting in some serious hours with like very low intensity. It was someone who didn't have a background in competition, and thus I'd ridden around on fixies and, you know, gone hard up climbs and stuff, but I was cruising because, you know, 100 plus miles, that was hard, and I knew it was going to be hard. Back to the food thing. I was just experimenting with low buck grocery store provisions as much as I could eat on these long weekly century plus rides, and that's how I got through the program. You know it works for you on a ride that long and your stomach can handle it? I'd say you just want to eat as much of whatever it is you like as you can. And if you're really trying to go fast, that's when you have to start making efficiency-based compromises. But if you're getting out and riding this stuff the first time on a, you know, kind of slower, heavier bike you piece together and you just want to figure it out, just eat. Eat like you're working a long day on a hard, cold job site. Don't matter what it is, as long as you've tested it and you know it works. How should you pace these rides? At first, slower than you think. A couple hours in, you'll see why. First couple ones, go easier than you think you need to go. You'll learn what Zone 2 is doing this. You'll learn what your real all-day endurance pace is when you do it for more than 16 hours. And I cannot stress enough, this is not the kind of event to be following wheels in the first 50K of. Just cruise it at your own pace. Like riding to the grocery store on the beach cruiser even. Seriously, it's a long, long time in the saddle, even just the 200K. Thinking about pursuing a Randonneur Series or another ultra distance goal, but not quite sure where to start? Think you might need a little support, compassionate guidance, or just a second brain, maybe some accountability, helping you think through your training program? I'm here. Go ahead and reach out to me. Adrian Bennett at wenzelcoaching.com. We can schedule a free consultation. Thank you so much for watching today's episode of Coach Adrian's Bike Shop. Boy, would I appreciate it if you gave me a thumbs up click or a subscription click. I would appreciate any feedback about what was interesting about this, what sorts of topics you might like to see me address in future videos, and if you saw anything in the background of this video that interested you, I'd be happy to share more information about that. So, for now, that's all I've got. Thanks for tuning in, and remember, don't just drink my Kool-Aid, sample all the Kool-Aids, figure out the good information, sift it out from the bad information, and implement an action plan for yourself and your athletic life that makes sense for you, what you want to do, and where you're at.